Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 254 of the show, and before we get started, we're just going to do a little bit of house cleaning around here because it only makes sense to do it, so let's just get on with the house cleaning. I do want to say thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for even coming back and listening to today's episode because, well, I wouldn't keep doing this stuff if, well, you guys didn't listen to these episodes and didn't let me know how you feel about them, so because at that point, I basically would just be a crazy person talking to myself in my room by myself, and that just sounds, well, kind of depressing if I'm being honest with you. But outside of that stuff, yeah, thank you guys for coming back and listening, for downloading the episodes, for sharing them, for constantly letting me know how you feel, whether you like my stupid face or not, or my opinions or not. At the end of the day, you're greatly appreciated. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I know this episode, it's still coming out on a Wednesday, it's just coming out a little bit later because normally I would record the episode on Tuesdays. Yes, I would have recorded it yesterday, but if I'm being honest with you guys, my voice was kind of shot. If I'm being honest with y'all, I went home for the weekend to celebrate Easter with my family and things like that. And obviously the weather in Dallas is a lot different than the weather here in Lubbock and the change in altitude and things like that. So my allergies haven't necessarily been the best. I'm constantly snotting up snot rockets and hawking all loogies. So forgive me for that. And my voice was kind of a little bit gone. So I do apologize for that, but the episode is still coming out on Wednesday. So hooray, we're back to our normally scheduled programming. I will say this though. I know I didn't do a poll this week because we technically have a backlog of topics that I've been wanting to talk about. Last week, we ended up doing a review of the Super Mario movie just because, well, I felt it was appropriate given the significance of the movie, given, how I felt about the movie, and at the same time, its impact, especially in the gaming space, because, well, this is one of the biggest IPs in the world finally doing a movie, and, well, the movie actually turned out to be really good. And if you love Mario, you grew up playing Mario and everything, this movie is, well, definitely up your alley. But this week, we are also going to be talking about something that I alluded in that episode, which is, well, the cancellation of E3. And this one does sting a little bit, if I'm being honest with y'all. In many ways, for me, I grew up watching E3, like whether it be on G4 TV and just watching like the presentations, whether it be like from the original Xbox, when they did the DS showcase, when they showed off the 3DS, when, so many memorable moments at E3 that I could list off the top of my head. And obviously, when COVID happened in 2020 and for the, going forward from there, E3 just has never been the same, especially because, well, E3 was a giant electronics show. So obviously it involved heavily of going in person, seeing the presentations live, hearing live crowd reactions, interacting with companies and their booths and things like that. Like, it heavily relied on this idea of direct interaction with people, whether that be business to consumers, businesses to businesses. Like, this whole point of interacting in person was the main driving point for E3. And because of COVID, that obviously changed everything because, well, yeah, you obviously couldn't interact with people. It was much more challenging to pull something like this off due to the fact of the restrictions that were put in place because of COVID. And you have all this other stuff going on, like, obviously a lot of people touching stuff. You just, you don't know who's sick. You're cramming that many people into the corridor. You know what I'm saying? Like, it eventually became a liability. And then E3 just hasn't been the same ever since then. And now that we fast forward to 2023, and now this is officially the end of E3 after 25 years of E3. And it's just like, damn. It's kind of rough, to be honest with you guys. Like, yes, people will say, well, Joss, it's just a show. Like, it's just a trade show. Like, who cares? And I'm like, to me, it has always been my dream to actually go to an E3. Like, me and my friends, we always talked about going to one, like whether it be after graduation. Like, if E3 was going to happen this year, we probably would have went to celebrate my graduation and stuff like that. But the fact that now E3 is gone, it's never coming back, I think it just kind of sucks, because this was an experience that I've always seen in videos or in live streams and things like that, but I've never gotten to see it in person. And it would have been cool to actually see a lot of this stuff in person, because to me, yeah, there are a lot of great memories I associate with E3. Like when they showed off the DS, when they showed off the 3DS, when they showed off like who knows how many numbers of games that were showed off, like Halo 2, Halo 3, obviously like all the Halo 4, Halo Reach, when they showed off like so many things, like when they showed off the Series X or even the PS5 and things like that. Like, there are so many things that I could associate with E3 and great memories that it just really stings that it's no longer going to be there. But I also understand, and this is one of the driving complaints that people had with E3, was that, well, yes, it was an older show. It was something that's been around for a while now. I would say there were some issues, and primarily very big issues, especially when it came to the transition to the rising, I'd say, current threat of online streams, because that is, well, if we're just being honest, a lot of these companies came to the realization, and people have said this to death, if I'm being honest with you, that yes, you could run the show by yourself, do a live stream, get some cameras, get the equipment, get the cameras, get a live stream going. There you go. You don't have to spend all this money to travel, to fly people out there, set up a giant booth, rent out the space and everything. You don't have to do like this large presentation in front of large amounts of people. Like, you could do it from the comfort of your own studio and things like that. Like, the pros began to outweigh the cons in this case, that doing something digitally made more logical sense. It was cheaper. It was more effective. They have more control over it. They didn't have to work with a third party. It was essentially everything could be done in-house, and you didn't have to worry about paying someone else to do stuff, unless like obviously like managing the live stream and things like that. But you get what I'm saying. It's like this mindset that people have. I'm like, well, it's like hiring people from within or hiring externally for upper level positions. You can either promote someone that's been from the bottom level, or prime example, let's say this. Like, we talked about the inside hiring versus outside hiring. Sorry, excuse me. Oof. I'm not gonna lie to this cough. I'm really trying my best to hold this cough back, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. When we think about the example of, say, your department is needing to upgrade its IT staff, or upgrade specifically some of the way that it does things in terms of IT infrastructure and things like that, wouldn't it make more logical sense to hire someone who who's already familiar with the organization, the needs, the goals, the expectations, but also has a great aptitude and has the right skill set to fill the role? Wouldn't it make more sense to just hire them than paying some schmuck on the outside that doesn't know your organization? Like, that's probably going to try to highball you guys, like try to ask for even more money. And this homie is like, hey, pay me this amount of money and I'll do it myself. You get what I'm saying? Like, a lot of these companies came to the realization that why should we have to pay somebody else to present our information when we literally could just run this event ourselves, save so much more money. We don't have to travel if we don't want to. And we still have full control over everything of what we show, what we don't show, and we basically just do whatever we want. And that's essentially what happened. And you started to see this when companies like Sony would drop out of E3. Like, yes, Nintendo still had a presence because of the fact, I'm like, well, yeah, they did their, what's it called? They would constantly run their Nintendo Treehouse Directs or their Nintendo Directs as like a video and stuff like that to show off what they're doing instead of actually being there in person, but they'd still have their booths and et cetera, et cetera. And then with this year coming along, now you had Microsoft backed out, you had Nintendo back out, you had Ubisoft backed out, you had Square Enix back out, you had Sega back. Like, you start seeing how like everyone just started backing out. And when that happens, like, well, you got no games to show, you got no companies to work with. And it's like, I think it's just kind of sad at the same time, because you had the people that run the PAX events that were essentially going to try to revitalize E3 and bring it back. And I think it just kind of sucks because, these guys and girls were probably putting in so much time and effort into this stuff. Because let's be real, if you've ever been to a PAX convention, yeah, it's definitely well organized, well prepared. Like, these homies have a lot of experience. They know what they're doing. Granted, I've never been to a PAX event, but that'd probably be something I want to do eventually too. I think it just kind of sucks because, they didn't get a chance to really, show what they could do with E3. But you also can't do much when everyone just backs out, because at that point, think about it. Yeah, you could set up this event, you can have everything properly ran and things like that, but if you have no one to be there to like show anything off, then, well, you get what I'm saying? Then at that point, it's like, you did all this for what, And I think it just really sucks, And I get it. There's a reason why people saw this coming. It's basically an aging design that didn't want to change with the time, that didn't want to adapt to the current environment, which was, yes, this is a very digitally centric market right now where everything, people like events being done online. They like, live streams. They like the convenience factor that comes with just popping onto a stream, whether it be on your phone, your tablet, your computer, wherever you are, whenever you can, like if you can jump in, like obviously when it starts, but on any device you want, what's the point of going to see it in person, And then I think it just sucks, To me, it does. Like, granted, you still have things like Jeff Keighley with, because originally Jeff was part of the whole stuff with E3, and then eventually he stepped away from it because he wanted to start his own thing, and he saw the writing on the wall. There were some creative differences, and then he eventually started the Summer Games Fest. And, well, here we are. Now Jeff is going to be the only, the only game in town running this stuff, even though, yes, the other publishers and everything are going to have their state of plays like Sony, and then Microsoft's going to have its showcases from first parties, and then they're going to do the Starfield stuff on June 11th. Nintendo's going to have their directs and stuff like that. All these other companies like Ubisoft doing the Ubisoft Forward event, et cetera, et cetera. Like, everyone's just going to be doing their own live streams and showing off what they got. And they don't have to worry about paying a middleman because, well, that's the benefits of doing it all in-house. You don't have to pay somebody else to do it. You could just do it all in-house. You already have the staff. You already have the equipment. You already have all this crap ready to go. So why would you pay all this money to fly people out there, to go live in hotels, pay for their food, pay for them to go to this convention center, pay for the booths, pay for the space, like set it all up, doing all of this work. And it's like, for what? Like the return on investment, is it going to be big? Is it not going to be big? Because people always say they don't make decisions based off money. Let's be real, homies. People do make decisions based off money. Money is a very important and, well, it's a big factor for a lot of people. And I think at the end of the day, this is just a prime example of not changing with the times. And some people say, well, why should they? And I'm like, well, this is part of it, guys. Like, there's going to be better ways of doing things. Like, as time goes on, things are going to become more efficient. There's going to be more accessible ways, and it just comes down to, are you willing to adapt or are you not willing to adapt? And in the case of E3, they weren't willing to adapt. They weren't willing to change with the times and the modern, era that we're in with the rise of digital live stream, or I wouldn't say digital live streams, but basically live streams. The fact that content can be streamed through the internet, and you could do it from the comfort of your home or the comfort of wherever you're at. And you don't really have to worry about like going in person or feel like you're missing out, when in reality you're just getting all the information at the same time. It's just you're getting it, well, at your own comfort wherever you're at, But this is the sad tale that we're in, where E3 is gone, and it's just how things are going now, where it's like a lot of this more traditional ways of doing things with, live, in-person events and things like that, where people just like the idea of live streams more. It's like same thing what happened at G4, where G4 didn't adapt to the, the current times, the current marketplace with how things are with YouTube, Twitch streaming and stuff like that, and how people get their information. And, well, they got shut down. And now E3 got shut down too. So, well, it does suck that they tried their best to bring this off the ground and try to bring it back, but just didn't happen. So it is what it is, guys. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are you sad that E3 is gone? What are some of your favorite moments from E3, if you have any? If you never watched E3, then you probably don't care. But like, hey, just sound off in the comments down below what you guys think about this episode. I know that we pushed this back a little bit just because of the fact I'm like, well, yeah, we had other topics and stuff like that. But I'm glad that we finally got around to talking about it, since this is something that I'd say is pretty personal to me, just because like I grew up watching E3, you know? But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I hope this episode was informative. I hope it was helpful. I hope it makes you reflect on maybe some of these things in the past, or maybe brings up some nostalgia that you might have by E3 and things like that. But I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful week and weekend. Please continue to be safe out there, guys. Don't do anything dumb. Let's be real, the world is still a weird place, so let's just continue to be kind and courteous to those around us, because, well, it's the only thing we really should be doing, you know? Like, there's no reason to be, like, a dick to people. And even if they're a dick to you, don't be a dick to somebody else. Just be a kind human being, you know? But I love you guys to death. Have yourselves a wonderful week and weekend, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.